Hello and welcome to Trains and Worlds roadmap update for June. We're going to take a walk through the roadmap that's just recently been published. So if you like this video, why don't you hit that like button and also subscribe? It really is appreciated. But in terms of the headlines that are outlined in June's roadmap, we're going to be able to take a closer look at the Glossop Line. This is due between, I guess, now and the next roadmap. So within a kind of month period. So yeah, do be looking out for that one. We get an update on the development for the Thameslink Class 700, so that'll be interesting to dive into. We get an update on the Trenton Timetable. I think that will be really intriguing to see what they've got to say on that one, because it was heavily criticised, obviously, when New York Trenton was originally released. We get an update from Just Trains, an update on upcoming patches. We haven't had a patch since the 9th of May, I believe. So I hope it's going to be quite a meaty one to address a lot of the outstanding issues that have been rumbling around. And then as ever, there's a bit of an inside development in terms of how they make scenarios, but we're not going to be focusing on that. I'll let you read that in your own time, and I will leave a link to the roadmap down in the description below if you want to have a look. So first thing, just to note, there's nothing particularly new been added since the May roadmap. So yeah, pretty much just a continuation of what we've already seen in the works. In terms of what they've got to say about the roadmap. So yeah, May has flown by. It's been a sizable Steam Core update. Yeah. Okay, not really too much to say in that respect. Obviously, the release of Peak Forest, that came out during May, although I think my view of it is the 4F didn't have enough services in timetable mode, and obviously it was clearly lacking diesel services across that route. But the scenery was utterly fantastic and beautiful. So a bit of a mixed bag from my perspective. Obviously, towards the end of May, as part of kind of the celebration of Focus Entertainment buying Dovetail Games, they gave away LGV Mediterranean for absolutely for free, and that was just all about Focus Entertainment being a French company, so therefore French content. We get to take a deeper look, into Glossop Line and also the 700, which is great. Okay, let's jump into the Glossop Line. So we expect this fully complete and self-contained route to release towards the back end of June, kind of as I kind of expected, with its first appearance in Manchester Piccadilly. That will be interesting to see how busy it kind of feels. So that'll be interesting. And it's the next kind of statement is around with this route. We've tried to get creative with our scenarios. So that will be interesting. A bit of an interview with Liam and Cameron, designers in their gameplay team. There's also more information about the timetable below. Great. And okay. So tell us some more about guard scenarios. So this sounds interesting because I think additional roles within Train Sim World has been long requested. So if this is a move in that direction, I think that's absolutely great. So let's see what we've got to say here. What they've got to say here. So the player will have a variety of guard-related tasks in the scenario, both on the train at station and at stations. But the focus is on operating the doors at station, checking the train is safe to depart, and inspecting passenger tickets between stops. Something brand new. Yeah, absolutely. When a player interacts with passengers in this scenario, they will be shown a date and the upcoming destinations of the train they are working on, along with the passenger ticket. Interesting. So we here just got a bit of a picture in terms of using the guard panel to operate the doors. Pretty cool. It's up to the player to compare the information of the passenger ticket and the current service. So I guess we get to say whether the ticket is valid or not. And if there is an invalid ticket, we get to remove the passenger at the next train's station, which is pretty cool. And you get points for doing that. I like it. So why did we select this route for a scenario involving guard operations? Yeah, so guard scenario is obviously something they've been wanting to do for a while, and obviously it's been highly requested by the community, but it never felt right to do so. Just, I guess, basically a combination of things coming together. Tech content that's specifically involved. Do we get any hints of? There's a 66 in there in the background, but other than that, I don't think we see too much else in that shot, other than just sitting in the guard's, I guess, the guard's seat. Tech-wise, Class 66, 3T3 already had the guard controls needed for this. It did. That was developed for the Birmingham Cross City release. What have we got here? So I had to create a way for these rail fans to board, ride, and depart a train with giving each rail fan a train ticket. Another new piece of tech, absolutely. These tickets are randomly generated to match the train service and the rail fan is riding, with some tickets randomly selecting an invalid travel date or destination to create an invalid ticket for the player to check. Nice. And then it's just showing us how we interact with some of the passengers. And what was the process undertaken to go from idea to execution? Won't read that one. Ticket inspection was the obvious thing that was missing from the scenario, and it was something we needed to make the field player like an actual guard. Absolutely. Ticket inspection gameplay started as a simple graphic of a good and bad ticket and grew into sort of a mini game where the player would have to compare multiple bits of information. I like that. And then we've got below a screenshot of what the ticket looks like, the next stops that are coming up. So I guess you can see whether, they should be still on the train. Obviously the date matching the from and until, and then, you get to decide whether you say perfect, thank you, or sorry, you've got an invalid ticket. I like that. That'll add certainly something a little bit new. And then, are there any other interesting scenario players can look forward to? There's some great scenarios which include some fun new things players haven't seen in the scenarios before. That's great, such as burst pipes, flooding on the tracks. That will be interesting to see, and a photo competition where players get a camera to use. It really does sound like they've gone to town with the scenarios on the Glossop Line. So really interesting to see what they will entail. And then we get to dive into the timetable information. So quick summary of what you can expect. Obviously still being developed. So the Manchester to Glossop runs at 2 trains per hour. And that's pretty fair. Timings can be tight, especially for both Glossop and Hadfield, with just 3 minutes between arriving and departing. So you really will have to keep the time on the route, which will be, keep it interesting. I like that. Even with a quick turnaround, the next train for Hadfield must often wait until the train ahead has left Ding. Okay, so I guess we'll see you may be held at certain signals until the train ahead is cleared or whatever. There's some intricacy details about this route, that's such as, Northern run 3T3s on other lines such as lines to Crewe, Stoke and Liverpool Lime Street and Manchester Airport. As for Les, it's a little too early, but for now the East Midlands trains 158 will be making an appearance. That's really cool to see. And I think it's probably fair to say that we've seen the 66 in the background above, and we can definitely see some freight. So I think we can expect some freight on this route as well. So I think we will certainly get a feeling of busyness, which is great. And I think it's, certainly something we'd want to see, certainly around Manchester Piccadilly, because that is a very busy station. And then just to touch on the pricing, it'll be available for £19.99 in pounds, $24.99 and euros. Then the Class 700 that has been teased for so long. So we get a bit of an update here. So we get a nice picture. This is all looking really good. I think we get quite a few pictures. This is going to be a bit of a long one, I think, on the 700. So they're slowly bringing it together, experiencing it still quite far from release. I would have thought some of the latest progress, share some of the... Yeah, I mean, it has been in development for quite a while, and they decided to take the decision to announce it early on, which is unusual for Dovetail games. We tend to see things announced and released in very short order, but here we've got some interior shots of the 700, which looks fantastic. Obviously got the interior PIS, which that looks really, really, really nice. Actually, you can see a lot of the safety information as well. Feels pretty prototypical. I like it. And bringing the more modern PIS, which obviously we talked about. That's very cool. In the cab, the screens are coming to life, and there's some interactivity which is fun to play with around the brightness, day, night mode, cab aircon, and even regen braking are all options which can be toggled. Modern trains are state-of-the-art. Yeah, we know that. And driver, enjoyed the in-depth conversations where every response is, driver, you have reset the DRA, please check the signal. Ooh, this sounds interesting. We've included both DC and AC functionality. While we don't have the northern end of the Thameslink network in TSW, so long as you're happy to hinderlessly place 700 on other routes, you can experience the different motor sounds. Well, that's interesting, because that was obviously they can both run on overhead power and obviously on third rail. So it'll be interesting to hear those different sounds. So a little bit like, I guess the best one it'll be interesting to hear. I think, yeah, I like it. And there we go. What have we got here? So speaking of placing things, Daisy, who you might remember from Birmingham Cross City, and she was absolutely heavily involved in that development. One of our testers had all the template specific stopping boards made to be placed into the southeastern high-speed route. Due to the way the timetable already works, whether the stop-at locations match these is not guaranteed, but her main goal is to make each station between Dartford and Rainham look more appropriate for the arrival of the 700. Okay, so you get some additional stopping markers, which is very cool to see. Reduced length, full length, all. So this is stopping point for 700 regardless of length. SDO. Okay, and T stands for the totem pole, like the shrine you see below. No, I'm kidding. A T-board is the turn back. Okay, nice. So we've got a couple of different pictures there. You can see the stopping boards just there as well. So they're all looking pretty good, and it's nice to see a little bit more clutter on the route. And then we'll jump into the timetable. The 700 will add over 80 services to South Eastern High Speed, filling out the half-hourly all-stop service between Reading and Dartford. So that will be nice to see even more services on what is already feels like quite a busy route. Then this brings a regular service to Higham, which currently only has southeastern services in the rush hour. Also means Rainham Platform 0 will be used throughout the day. That's nice. There are also some some empty stock moves, and without having to worry about any Kentish troublemakers. So I guess some non-stopping services. People have already found the the 700 services. That was quite funny to see. One addition, because people, also known as me, kept asking us. So this is the introduction of some new rail tours to South Eastern High Speed, particularly diesel ones. So we get to see the 47, which is pretty cool. So this would serve the same Kent Coast, giving you those two services to run along the Chatham Main Line in the summer months. In Trenton World 2, these similar services started at Gravesend. However, given the addition of Dartford and how busy it is, squeezing anything else in is going to make choke right. Okay, so I guess we're going to have get to see the 47 there, which is looking good. And we also get the introduction of the Class 33 in some rail tours as well, which is, I'm loving this. And these will also be particularly limited to sort of the summer months, so you won't necessarily see them all year round, which is also very cool. Additional tweaks in AI services have also gone in. Most notably, we've adjusted how the Ford reverse class 465 turn back procedures work at Strood in the morning and the evening rush to be more prototypical. Okay, fine. At my most eager request, a winter seasonal AI service now appears at Strood, inspired by last year's Medway Valley Pullman rail tour. Okay, so we'll get a rail tour in the winter. That's pretty cool. And there's also going to be a seasonal static train going in. We're not telling you where, when, what stock. You'll just have to wait and see. It'll be interesting to see what else is being included. And then the last thing to note, which is it's interesting, there's been a lot of changes to Southeastern High Speed lately, and I'm curious as to the continued development of this route. It's interesting, I think, because obviously we've recently had the introduction of the the Class 43 East Midland trains AI services at Southeast St Pancras, beg your pardon, and now we're getting the just outside of St Pancras. We're going to get rid of the numerous Class 66s that have been parked on the East Coast Main Line, and they will get replaced with Thameslink AI services. So really interesting. And lastly, there's going to be 7 scenarios to be included. That's quite a hefty amount. So yeah, that'll be interesting to get hands on the 700, but still no date on when that is going to be released. So yeah, hopefully soon, but certainly not going to be within the next month. Then we get to dive into the New York Trenton updated timetable. So yeah, a recap. We don't really need to recap. We knew it was not great. So progress as of May 2023 roadmap. So full Amtrak and Acela as with release. These services might be slightly different now to more. Okay, full electric NJT timetable is now complete. Okay, that's cool. And it does not include the RA3, Princeton Junction, Princeton AI, or diesel equipment out of New York Penn. And no way else. Okay, fine. However, that wasn't all I wanted to include in this timetable, so there's going to be more. I like this. One of the main criticisms on the timetable was, of course, due to the imbalance of the ALP 46 and ML-led services. Many lines that use push-pull train sets will usually have the loco always on one end. For example, all the Hamburg to Lübeck trains will have locos towards Lübeck. Okay, this is not quite the case on the Trenton line due to Sunnyside Loop. Any train entering Sunnyside Loop will give value, which means it will then face the other way. The difficulty here was trying to strike a close enough balance. I was able to get a balance. Okay, so it's about getting the services facing the right way. Short NJT Syracuse services. Now the exciting stuff. I've had a couple of suggestions for extra services, AI and playable. One example is the NJT service from New York Penn towards Newark Broad Street. Some of these were present at release, and as of the last roadmap update were all included, though they were all AI, and had some suggestions to make the stop at Syracuse into playable services. Okay, so there are some shorter services that you can now play rather than be AI. That's cool. Last thing, quite annoying for some players, sorting out the NJT service descriptions from the NJCL. Okay, basically the titling of the services were somewhat misleading. That's fair enough. And they're also increasing the double loco leading chances on the Amtrak Northeastern Regional Service. Some players have noticed there's a low chance of double lead-in, and so they're going to slightly increase it. That's cool. Also going to be some introduction of freight, which I wasn't quite expecting. So American... what have we got here? Looking through the several videos, I found reference. There's 4 freight trains. These trains are run by CSAO, which to my best understanding is a settled agreement between CSX and NS after the old CR lines were too complicated to divide up. Okay. And So, okay, you've got these 4 train services, but what does that mean for New York Trenton? CSAO run trains with a mix of CSX and NS equipment, specifically the XCR equipment that have the extra cab signaling. In Train Sim World, these will require sand patch grades to layer in, and also there's a chance of the NS GP38 from Horseshoe Curve. Many of those calls. Okay, so you'll get the opportunity to have a bit of a mix of different liveried GP38s, which is pretty cool, actually. As you can see a little bit there, you've got the CSX on the front and the NS behind with a nice soundtrack. I like that. What else we've got? Okay, so we've got those. Okay, so at the moment, there's a slight problem in that the services don't have in-cab signaling, and therefore they may, I guess, become AI only. It kind of makes sense. I mean, it's nice just to see the variety on the route. I can't argue with that. So, yeah. And then I think this really was heavily requested, which is the Long Island Railroad layer. So finally, it's being introduced. So over 500 services. So this will really make a big difference to New York Penn. So I'm thoroughly happy about this. You'll also get so what you'll need is the Long Island Railroad, which will introduce the M7, but also the M3 add-on will also potentially substitute in. So amazing that we get to see even more variety. So I think we get a brilliant picture of that here. As you can see, we've got NJT train going under what is Long Island Railroad service. Oh, I like that. And we got a bit more of a picture there. As you can see, Sunnyside Yard in the background with the service again. I like that. That's a significant improvement to the feel of New York Trenton, of course, with the additional services and obviously the occasional freight. I'm really impressed with that, actually. Obviously, hopefully, can't wait to get my hands on that once it is released. So we've got Train Symbol core improvements, content patches, a bit of a summary of what is going to come. So we all know about Adults Manager that's released for PlayStation, but they're now looking to turn their attention to Xbox and then finally PC. The long awaited HST livery designer, Peninsula Corridor and Oakville Baby Bullet services, along with the also Train Symbol 2 preservation releases. They have been ongoing for so long, and they should just be dealt with as soon as possible. So hopefully they pull their fingers out, but it's it doesn't look promising with the TSW2 patches, which is quite sad to see. And then what we've got here is just a summary of the patches that happen in May, and then we've got an upcoming patch which is actually due to happen tomorrow, the 7th of June, which I'll let you read this for yourself, but will address the issues on Linke Rheinstrecke, Bremen-Oldenburg. There's going to be a real significant update to the Midland Main Line, which I'm really excited to get my hands on. Obviously, there's going to be even more services added, including freight as well. It's going to address some of the physics of the Class 158 and also some environmental fixes such as station and also some remodeled bridges. So yeah, really looking forward to that. Just one to note, console players, the additional freight services won't come with that patch, but they will come at a later point. It's nice to see Rivet Games also releasing a patch to address a number of the number of issues on their release routes. So we've got the BR204, the Island White line, the Razor Linney, West Cornwall Loco, Luzerne to Cersei, and the 1938 two-stop. So yeah, nice to see some change or some improvements coming to that. Peak Forest, finally adjusting the safeties on the 4F because they were horrible, to put it politely. And then expected later in June, a NIDA toolbar and post-release patch. That's cool. And then finally, HST livery designer functionality and Great Western Express improvements. That's cool to see. As they mentioned, no confirmed release date for the Peninsula Corridor or the Baby Bullet services and any other Train Sim World 2 updates, which is a shame. We've got a bit of a third-party developer update, which dives into some of the updates that Rivet Games have been making to the Midland Main Line route. And there's been some really great communication by Jane, the Skyhook's Chief Technical Officer, about the progress, certainly over on the Dovetail Games forum. So check that out if you want a bit more in depth in terms of what's been addressed. But they've really are taking some of the improvements very seriously. It's nice to see. And I think, when that patch does release, I certainly will be doing a video on it to show it in all its glory. But really looking forward to see what's going to come with that. Then we get a bit of an update from Just Trains with a little bit of a tease in terms of the route they've been building. Obviously, still don't know where this route is yet, and they've completed 30 miles. I think we found that out in the last roadmap. But one of the particular things that stood out to me was to this paragraph here. So the aim with this product is to recreate the days of British Rail. So you can certainly understand what the time period is. So focus on a busy and varied timetable, providing immersive experience with our full timetable featuring passenger, parcels, freight, and shunting operations. So get a real variety of different experiences there, which is very cool. When driving the route, you'll find the timetable changes significantly depending upon what season, so that's very different as well. And a wealth of possibilities alongside this are use of layers which will interact with other add-ons, so understandable. You'll never be certain on what might turn up, so I guess that will mean you'll see a lot of variety within this route, which is great. And this is what absolutely adds to the immersion. We've talked about the Rivet Games update, and then we dive into the inside development, which is all about making scenarios this month. So if you want to head over and have a read of a more in-depth about how they come up with the scenarios, please feel free. I'll leave a description to the roadmap, a link to the roadmap in the description below. And I think that brings us nicely to the end of our roadmap walkthrough. So hopefully you've enjoyed this one. If you have, why don't you hit that like button and also subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.